Welcome back to High School Backups Podcast, episode 26. I am clearly not Nick. Nick is doing errands
A
with his
scrub.
fiance right
He's a
now. He's
scrub.
moving.
Nick, you changed your hair. Nick, did you
Oh,
dye
yeah.
it?
Nick,
You
you're a
look
lot
Nick,
more
you're so
you're
handsome.
Did you
handsome.
buy it? But welcome back, guys. We are thankful for everybody out there listening right now. Again, I say it is episode 26 of High School Backups Podcast. Make sure you go follow the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All at High School Backups Pod. All at High School Backups.
Speaking of the Twitter, I think
Oh,
we
yeah.
have some big news there.
We just hit 1,000
Hey.
followers on Twitter. It's officially half a year of doing this for everybody. We're out here killing it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Very quickly to open up, we're going to do some league-wide different sport news before we get into our fantasy sleepers and guys you should stay away from in your fantasy drafts. This is all based on ESPN average draft position. First and foremost, biggest news of the day, Kevin Durant rescinded his trade request from the Nets. He will be a Brooklyn Net at least for the beginning of the season. I doubt they don't trade him at some point, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm going to turn it over to Austin for some MLB and esport news. Actually, there he is.
What's up?
There he is. All right, Austin, we're turning it over to you for some esports and MLB today, dog. Go for it.
Awesome. So, first thing is just that BDS for esports won the Rocket League Championship tournament in, well, I think it was in LA, correct, Justin? I think you were following that too. I think it was in LA this year.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, at the YouTube's I forget exactly the name of the studio out there. But anyways, NRG came in, I think it was 8th or 7th. I can actually pull that up, but Dignitas. BDS beat G2 in it was kind of a close, but they ended up beating them in the end by, I think it was a score of 4-2 in the best of 7, or it was 4-1 actually, might have been. So that was a good series. Unfortunate that my team NRG could not make it. If you guys want to check out the rest of that, you can go check out the rest of that bracket and see how the top 8 finished out on Championship Sunday. That was 2 Sundays ago now, or not this Sunday from this week, but the one before that. So that's the news from there. Any other esports news that any of you guys want to talk on? I know the Call of Duty Championship was the weekend before that as well. So I don't remember what happened with that. I think Optic might have won that. I think that's what it was. I think Optic won.
Sure. 100 Thieves. I've been hearing 100 Thieves.
You might be right about that. I will bring that up in a second after I talk about some MLB news. But if there's nothing else that you guys want to touch on with esports, we're kind of dabbling in that right now. We might get into that more. If you guys want us to do that, comment down below, hit us up on Twitter, any of our socials, and let us know what you guys want to see as topics going forward, what you guys want us to cover. Do you want the traditional sports? Do you want us to kind of branch out and do more things like cricket? I don't know. I mean, whatever you all like.
Once
So.
this ball hits, we'll be covering World Cups. So
Yeah.
That's
we'll get the
but
soccer covered.
But
We'll
that's
cover
traditional.
soccer. Yeah, it's traditional, but we don't really talk about it as much.
That's true. We don't.
We need to branch out to some lacrosse, boys. That's what we really need on this.
Well,
podcast.
I can actually branch out real quick. So in terms of
Yeah, go ahead.
professional Dungeons and Dragons, Critical Role came out with episode 31. They just dropped a whole bunch of lore, and their fun, cute little robot just turned into Skynet. So for that potentially -1 person out there that knows about Critical Role, thank you very much.
Oh my
I think
god.
you said -1 person.
Austin, give me the MLB news.
So we got some news. Thank you, babe. Getting chicken
Austin
delivered to
got
me.
his-
Thank you so
Yeah, I was
much.
about to say Austin just got his dinner delivered. That's awesome.
Yeah.
mean, you can't ask for a better way from that. So also, you weren't getting any. You already had your dinner. Shut it back there.
Yeah, I have a golden retriever like breathing heavily on my thigh right now.
All right. So Yankees are going for a 3rd win tonight in a row, which sadly is only their 2nd one since like the beginning of July or something crazy like that. It's like literally yesterday after they won 2 in a row was like the first time they had won 2 in a row in like a month and a half to 2 months. So that was a good thing finally.
Yeah, they're like what, 10-20 in their last 30 games.
In July, in August, coming into tonight, they are 6 for 4. No, 6 for 20, 6 for 14, something between 6 and 15 and 6 and 20. I don't remember.
Oh.
It's atrocious.
Listen, as a disappointed Red Sox fan, all I can say is we are banded together watching the Yankees suck. That's really all it is at this point. Our season's over, so we just band together and watch the Yankees burn.
And that's what sports is all about. Like, have have terrible team fan bases just bond and suffer together.
I mean, when it's all you care about is that your rival's sucking. That's it, really. It's like if you're having a bad season, and the Yankees aren't having a bad season; they're having a bad stretch. But the good thing is they built themselves a 15-game lead pretty early, so they could weather a stretch like this. I've looked at all their stats. There's no way. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna look because I'm not gonna be the one that jinxes that. But there shouldn't be a case where they continue the astronomically terrible numbers they had been doing up until these last 2 games. Even then, they weren't great. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, moving on. The Red Sox are continuing to be just as bad as they were, so that's a good thing. The hope for us to be larger than 15 games is still alive because it's 14 and a half right now, depending on what happens tonight. And then in other news, we've got stuff like different injuries and things. There's not a ton of stuff, so I'm just going to talk about the races quickly. Dodgers are just creaming everybody. It's not even like close. They are what we expect them to be. They're actually close to on pace now to break the record. That's how good they're playing. So the Yankees for a while looked like they had a chance to take the all-time record, and the Dodgers are now at 700 win percent on the season, which they need like just a couple more wins to get on pace to beat that. So it's crazy. They are playing insane. They're at 84 and 36, I think, or something like that. So it's insane. They are playing out of their mind, and so they're leading the NL and all of baseball with the best record. They have the most points scored and the least amount of runs let in, and they have a 260 something or 250 something run differential, which is insane. This early in the season, it's just it's stupid. Like the Yankees are at 180 to 90, and that's still really good, which is why it's stupid that they're having so many losses recently. But they were over 200 at one point, but it just shows you how much better the Dodgers are than everybody right now. The Astros are still they're actually doing okay. They've been like up and down, but just a little better than the Yankees. So there are a few games. I think there are 3 games ahead of them for the best record in the AL, which I think is super important because I don't want to go play the Astros at home for 4 games. That's just not going to be good for the Yankees or anybody that for that matter. And then you've got the Mets, who are playing the Yankees tonight. They lost last night. If the Yankees take this one, the Mets and Yankees will split the season series. In other news, the Cardinals. Let's talk about Albert Pujols. He is at 692. 3 right after last night. 693. So he is 7 home runs away from getting to 700, which is I hope he does. That is just amazing if he can do that. And this is actually, if I saw the correct tweet today, this is his best stretch. Like I forget how long it's like. What is it since the All-Star break? 3 weeks now, right? Something like that. 3 weeks, or maybe 4 now. Yeah, in his career, this is the best 3 to 4 week stretch of his entire career. Let that sink in.
That's
this
insane.
Man is what almost 40, or is he? He's a 40.
Yeah, he's somewhere around the age of 40. He's been playing baseball since we were born.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's 42.
And 42. That's what I thought. So just to let you guys think about this, he has. How many home runs does he have since the All-Star break? I wish I had this tweet up in front of me. He has, as far as I know, he has more home runs than Aaron Judge right now since the All-Star break, which is insane because Judge for like a while there after the All-Star break was hitting one literally like every game. He has a higher OPS. He has more RBIs. And in this same stretch, I saw it, the only ones that have the same amount of across the stats, OPS, RBIs, home runs, all that stuff, is Barry Bonds over the same time frame in any season. Willie Mays and I can't remember who the other one was. he is
Is it
just
Sammy Sosa?
literally. No, it was somebody else. I forget who it was. It wasn't like one of the other big hitters like that. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it was Mark McGwire. It was somebody else. But anyways,
Not a big deal.
it's insane the numbers he's putting up over this last like 3 months. Not 3 months. 3 weeks to a month. And I hope he can continue this because if he does, I mean this is going to be an amazing finish for them. They're going to need him because they will probably make the playoffs. Right now, if it ended, they would be. Also, Jordan Montgomery, thanks to the stupid Yankees trading him away at the last second of the deadline, has literally been the best pitcher since the deadline, or second best, sorry, in ERA, and pitched for the first time in his career a complete game and was one hit from a perfect game. I mean, I can't. The Yankees, Cashman, literally after the trade goes, well, we think that Montgomery's going to have less value over the next 2 seasons than the guy they just traded for. I was like, what? He's a center fielder. There's nothing better than pitching. It's baseball. The most valuable people on the field are the pitchers. Like it's been proven for the last 200 years almost of baseball, and we're gonna say it's whatever. Anyways, that's basically all the huge news that I can think of. We'll talk about more stuff as it gets closer to it. So.
And since we're done, Kyle, I know you have some NHL news. Then Steven's got some reports from Patriots camp.
I do have a little bit. So, biggest trade that happened free agent signing. The biggest free agent that was left on the NHL market was Nazem Kadri. And he just signed with the Calgary Flames, and I think it was for 8 years, $7.5 million, which is pretty big for Nazem Kadri. But I think the biggest thing about all of that is the Calgary Flames went from being a cup contender last year to losing their 2 superstars to being a bottom-ranked team to then becoming a cup contender in the matter of 2 weeks again. So they lost their top scorer, Johnny Gaudreau, in free agency. They traded away their second top scorer, Matthew Tkachuk. And then they lost their top defenseman, Eric Branson. And then they just signed Nazem Kadri and then traded for Jonathan Huberdeau, who is better than Matthew Tkachuk. So to me, it just blows my mind how the Flames have gone from something to nothing to something again in the matter of like 2 months. I don't like, and it takes some teams. It takes teams years to rebuild. The Flames did it in a span of a month. Well, it took the Rangers only 3, which is actually still pretty phenomenal to do. It's taken the Flyers fucking 12,
especially in New York.
Kyle, don't worry. You went from an awful franchise to a not as terrible franchise. You're doing so good.
Thanks. Thanks.
Kyle, is that it on NHL news?
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, Steve, give me some reports from Patriots camp. I need to hear
I got
good
some
news.
reports from Patriots camp. As many people have heard, our second-round pick, Thornton, unfortunately has a shoulder injury. It was a collarbone injury. Expected to only be out a couple of weeks, which is very good. He showed some promise in our first preseason game against, I think it was a minor league AAF team or something like that. I can't remember. The Giants. I got this mixed up all the time. And Patriots had joint practices last week with the Panthers. And the report is, one, after a couple of very chippy fights, unfortunately, the Patriots' offensive line was not doing great. The Panthers do have a decent pass rush, but considering we might be traveling to Green Bay, dealing with the Browns, it's not very promising. Mac Jones definitely did struggle in his preseason debut. Even with a beautiful throw, the Nelson Aguilar has been doing great. But Aguilar and Devontae Parker have been showing that they've been able to stretch the field really well, which is good. And then we have Jalen Mills is showing some real promise. I mean, he shut down DJ Moore for most of their time during joint practices, which is going good. He's going up against Devontae Adams this week. They are practicing with the Raiders, so hopefully we'll get some more reports. My idea is I'll probably find some reports and send them to Jake, and we maybe tweet them out just to kind of get the news set there, what's going on. But Patriots are still showing some struggle. Damian Harris and Stevenson are definitely showing some promise as running backs, but they're trying to get Stevenson to catch the ball more, kind of like James White. But And Montgomery has been shining. And our offensive guard, Strange, has shown flashes of it. He's still young, but there's definitely some potential there with development. But, Patriots we still have a really tough season coming with this AFC that we have to fight against.
That's a fact. I did hear that we struggled today against the Raiders, but it was just a bad day. Apparently in sevens it wasn't going well, but when it was 11 on 11s in joint practices today, the Patriots came out on fire, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
We're going to move right along. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, it's okay. I think definitely on 11 on 11s, what I'm really concerned about is seeing how the offensive line holds up against like Chandler Jones, but also how our secondary can do. This is a good test for our secondary, how they can match up against an offense with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, and of course Devontae Adams. Kind of see how, because we have pieces together that look more better equipped for zone. So I have a feeling we're seeing how we can run a zone with so many pieces like that running around. But it's a good test for us, but we'll see how this week goes.
That's a fact. We're going to move right along here into our fantasy sleepers and guys you should stay away from in your fantasy draft section. Long-winded
Stay away
section.
from Devontae Adams. Not good. Not good.
Zero shot.
Yeah.
No, long-winded name, but it's going to be a beautiful segment. I put together a list based on ESPN's average draft position rankings. Guys that I think are better than what they're being drafted at right now. Guys I think you should stay away from. And I've got 12 sleepers and 10 guys you should just not draft if you're going to have to draft them that high. And y'all can just roast me if you think the list is awful, or you can tell me that I did a good job here. So this is going to go in order of the average draft position, except for my last two honorable mention sections. I did 2 honorable mentions in the sleeper section. First up, average draft position for Kyle Pitts. Absolute sleeper. He's going at 34.
Ooh.
In a 12-man league, that's late 3rd round. If you're getting a talent with the upside of Kyle Pitts in the 2nd or 3rd last pick of the 3rd round, the football gods have favored you. I'm just going to say that right now. He's a top 3 tight end with the upside of being the number 1 tight end in fantasy football, considering how much he catches. Obviously, his problem is quarterback. I mean, he's got Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota on the roster, and Desmond Ridder.
Slander Marcus Mariota.
Listen, Marcus Mariota is a good bridge quarterback. He's not a starting quarterback in the league. And I had Desmond Ridder rated as the 5th best quarterback in this draft, and I don't love his skill set. Other people do. You can agree with me or tell me I'm an idiot. It's fine.
He's definitely a very good flex option depending on the week because he's definitely the kind of player that he has a lot of potential, and the Falcons, he's definitely going to be great, I think, late season because you have a lot of teams facing the Falcons. Either they're just going to be fighting for draft capital, or you have high seed teams that are probably going to take them as seriously. And it's definitely not games they're going to win, but these are matchups that they'll probably play a lot softer, and that can give Kyle Pitts the ability to really go off. So I actually like him as a sleeper.
Well, here's the thing is in a PPR league, I'm assuming that Kyle Pitts is going to have at least 12 targets a game, considering he's the first pass catching option in Atlanta, especially with Drake London out for the first few weeks. I know he's sustained an injury. I think he's out the first couple weeks of the year. So Kyle Pitts can essentially be plugged and played into the tight end 1 slot if you have Travis Kelce or George Kittle, or your flex option if you have those two, and you'll be fine. My second sleeper on this list with an average draft position of 37 is actually A.J. Brown. He's going behind some other bigger name wide receivers, but for the first time in his life, he finds himself in a offense that actually utilizes the pass game instead of being stuck in Tennessee where all they do is run the ball. Justifiably so. Derrick Henry's an absolute animal. But he's coming out of the Tennessee Titans system. Yes, he's got Jalen Hurts as his quarterback, which doesn't help his stock, but he's a bona fide wide receiver 1 going in the 4th round of 12-man leagues. If you get A.J. Brown in the 4th round, that's an absolute steal. So that's just one of the people you need to keep your eye on. And then again, another wide receiver 1. This one actually got a significant upgrade at quarterback. Terry McLaurin is going average draft position of 41, a few spots behind A.J. Brown. With an actual quarterback for the first time in his career, with a subpar running game in Washington.
Hold on.
And arguably the best quarterback in the division.
What, Kyle?
He had Alex Smith.
An old Alex Smith coming off an injury. We love the Alex Smith story. He's a warrior, but he wasn't Alex Smith when he was playing with the Commanders.
Yeah, he wasn't. As much as I got to agree that, like, definitely Alex Smith has had incredible flashes before. Yeah, he was near the end of his career. Really, it was him coming back just for the sake of the story, unfortunately. But
basically on a peg leg. Like, I hate to say it, but like, it's amazing that he didn't have that amputated. But that's kind of what it was like.
I mean,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, Alex Smith played well, but he wasn't the same.
I thought he played with Terry McLaurin before the injury.
No. Unless it was like the first few weeks of Terry McLaurin's career.
Did he?
No, Alex Smith got hurt his first season in Washington.
Yeah,
like 4 weeks
I think.
No, Dak's the best quarterback in that division.
Yep.
I am high on Carson Wentz, and the highest you can put him is QB2. I don't love Dak Prescott, but he's the best quarterback in that division.
And I'll give it to, I mean, the thing, too, with Carson Wentz is he's definitely a gunslinger, too. And so when you have, and also, I mean, you actually have a very underrated receiving core, especially with Curtis Samuel in there. And then was it Logan Thomas, their tight end at the same time. They actually have, a passing attack that actually might be able to take a little bit of pressure off of Terry as well.
They also drafted Jahan Dotson in the first round, too.
Yep.
So, no, I actually think the Commanders' passing attack is going to be very good. Terry McLaurin's just going to spearhead it.
Yep.
Again, looking at a guy who's going to
backfield too.
Exactly.
Play him against the Giants. He's going to get a lot of points.
Line stuff, he'll be.
Again, Terry's going to be a guy that averages 10 to 12 targets a game. There's no reason to not draft him higher than 41. And if you're getting him at 41, you're absolutely lucky.
And play him against the Giants. He's going to get plenty of targets in that awful secondary.
Awful. Okay, it's
bad,
God.
but it's not bad.
This is not what we're doing right now, boys. I'm not doing it.
Got his ass.
I'm here for it.
Kyle, the Giants suck.
The Patriots suck.
That's just not true.
Patriots made the
Let's
playoffs.
go.
Let's see, 6 times.
They won't this year.
They
won't make it this year.
Kyle,
No, they won't.
Kyle, doubting Bill Belichick has never gone well for him.
What do you want to put on this, Kyle?
We'll talk
All right.
after, Austin.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after.
We'll talk after.
Speaking of
Put 2
Dak,
cases on it.
oh my God.
Deal.
Speaking of Dak Prescott, his former wide receiver Amari Cooper has an average draft position of 78. That is, I think, mid-7th round in your fantasy drafts, and he is basically the only pass-catching target in Cleveland. Even without Deshaun Watson, he's essentially the only target, so I don't know why he's not going higher than that.
Yeah.
If you can scoop Amari Cooper in the 7th round, you've got a very, very good wide receiver, too, for your championship fantasy football team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I agree. I don't know if I can agree with that, Jake.
Why? What's up, Kyle? Give me it.
I understand your thought process with him being the only target there, but regardless who their QB is for the first 11 weeks, Jacoby Brissett cannot throw well, and then it's Josh Rosen who's his backup. And Jacoby Brissett has flashes. I'm not saying Jacoby Brissett is an excellent backup. Jacoby Brissett is amazing. I like being a backup, not like a superstar, but I don't think he's going to be able to bring out the Amari Cooper that we know. I just don't.
So here's the thing about your analysis, Kyle. I've watched Jacoby Brissett a lot. He played for the Patriots. He played a couple games for the Patriots, and I watched him when he started for the Colts. He really likes to throw to his top targets. Like a lot. I can see Amari Cooper with Jacoby Brissett in the game getting 15 targets out of 25 passes thrown. And that means he probably has 8 to 12 catches a game, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
And the other thing too, when you have such a good running game as well, definitely because he's a very good route runner. Makes it a lot easier. You can play action pass a lot more, and you can have Amari Cooper run some pretty nasty slants, maybe some in cuts, but then you can just go for play action, give him a good throw, and then be able to block downfield as well if possible. Even just set him up for screens and everything too.
I mean,
so they can.
Sorry, go ahead, Steven. I didn't mean to
No. I was pretty much done. You're good.
Okay, I mean, he could run into the same problem that A.J. Brown had in Tennessee where it's really run dominant, so I can see your point, Kyle. But at average draft position 78, again, if he's in there in the mid to late 7th round, I think actually it's mid 8th. It's like 6th pick in the 8th round. I'm probably taking Amari Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Even if I have to draft and stash him until week 11 when Deshaun gets back.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead, guys.
You know what? Cleveland, who I think actually might be a sleeper though, is David Njoku.
Yes.
I could see
Donovan
that.
Peoples-Jones. Can't
Donovan
sleep on
Peoples-Jones
Donovan
could be good.
Peoples-Jones.
So,
I think this could be his breakout season for him.
I do have a similar to Donovan Peoples-Jones for one of the ones
I don't
coming
know
up
about
later,
that.
but
I don't know about that one, Andrew.
Don't sleep on him.
No, he'll do what he did
Don't-
last year. Just have that like one game for like 100 yards, 2 touchdowns, like
as
twice
long
a
as you
year.
pick him up for the one game.
Exactly. Same thing with Njoku.
Yeah.
That's the
Now,
thing. Njoku's been around for what, 5 years now with them, and he's done every year. It's his breakout year. Every year it's his breakout year. Come on, at some point, it's not. It's just not. It's not. It's not.
I'm not saying
That
he's
could
going
have
to
been-
break out.
that
I'm
could
saying
have
he's a
been-
sleeper.
That could have been more a Baker Mayfield thing too. He just hasn't tended to throw to tight ends a lot. I know that Austin
Where's-
Hooper was okay, but he tends to favor outside receivers.
True. Who did they have before?
Where's
'Cause he
Njoku
played before
going right
Baker too.
They had Austin Hooper and Njoku at the same time, essentially.
Who did-
Njoku and Baker, I think, have always played together.
Who was their
Yeah.
quarterback the year before Baker? Because I can't remember.
Some no name, it doesn't matter.
Deshaun Kaiser
might have-
and
yeah,
Brock
Deshaun
It was
Kaiser.
Tyrod.
I think you're right. It was him. It was him, and no, Tyrod wasn't there, was he?
RG3.
I'm pretty
RG3
sure
was
There
there.
it was.
I'm pretty sure
RG3 was
Tyler-
there.
Tyrod was there.
Tyrod was there.
And
I think he
what
was
is it, Brock
before.
Osweiler
But he was there.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Colt
so they had
McCoy.
so many
Colt
people.
McCoy.
and McCoy.
Guys, it was a lot of quarterbacks, and
They all
we
sucked.
don't care. They all
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah. All right, who else you got,
Poor
Jake?
RG3.
So, before we continue, though,
Go ahead.
Njoku's average draft position is 157, which means he's going in the late 16th round, which in most drafts is your last pick. I would totally take Njoku for that
Okay.
tight end position as your last pick there.
Where is
When
he
you
getting?
can take other wide receivers and running backs, even a star kid. If you were just, most people take tight ends like in the 10th, 11th, 12th round there. That you can reach for a good kicker like Justin Tucker or Evan McPherson this year. And that's where,
Yep.
and you can get a star-powered kicker there when most people would be taking their tight end. So if you're waiting for the 16th round, where most people like to take their random-ass sleeper that probably will just get dropped after week 2, and they can get Njoku, who's probably going to get a solid 5 to 8 targets a game.
Listen,
Yep.
unless you're taking
We
one of the
could.
top 4 tight ends in Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, or Kyle Pitts, yeah, you're absolutely right about the tight end stuff, Kyle.
Yeah.
But
No, obviously, if you're taking you're taking one of the superstar
Yeah.
tight ends in the top 5 rounds, you're not looking for a tight end in the 8th or lower, obviously.
No.
But I'm just like, but I'm saying, like, if you're not doing that,
No, I
like,
know.
Even if,
no, I know.
like, yeah.
But moving on to a player on my favorite team who's dropping like nobody's business for no reason.
Ah,
This
I know
man
where this
was
is.
the 14th ranked running back in fantasy football last year, and he is at ADP 100.
Oh.
We're talking like mid 8th round for Damian Harris.
That's
First-
fine with me.
first
I
off-
love that.
First off, my
Such a
favorite player on the
steal.
Patriots right now, because I'm kind of old school. I love running backs. It's just what I do. And I mean, this man was the 14th ranked fantasy running back last year. Yeah, you're probably not expecting him to have another 15 touchdowns, especially splitting with Ramondre Stevenson. But the Patriots offense hasn't changed that much. His production
Nope.
should continue, and he's a steal in that mid 8th.
And he averages almost 5 yards a carry.
Absolutely.
You can almost,
like,
and at
I
the
can,
same, sorry.
I can smell a fantasy championship right now.
The other thing too is you can also, with the Patriots offense, you can almost predict when he's going to do really well. Because if you see a week where Stevenson went off that week, it's like, all right, cool. Then most likely Damian Harris might be featured in the next game as well. So you can almost predict, depending on which running back did, when you can sit him or when you can play him as well.
Well, plus, if he's going that low, it means that you can take another running back that will probably be the feature back. You take it that high,
Oh, yeah,
And
no,
then-
Damian Harris is your RB2. He's not your RB.
Yeah.
But
or even possibly a flex if you're good enough to get 2 high RBs, and then now you've got him for when you know there's going to be a like terrible rush defense. you play him that week and say, okay, I'm playing on the upside that the Patriots offense is going to be fine. Like, and they're going to go off like, someone like a Jets team of last year where they scored 53 points on them. Like, when you see that week coming, you just put him in and say, okay, yeah, I'm guessing at least a touchdown and maybe close to 100 yards.
Austin,
And at the same
very much
time,
taking the same approach that I do with PPR running backs. Rotation, baby. Unless you have Derrick Henry or one of the top ones.
Yep, exactly.
yeah, that's kind of what I had to do is because with Nick Chubb being injured last year, I had him, Damian Harris, and Aaron Jones, and I was able to kind of rotate them. Or you can get lucky and somebody, possibly by the name of Andrew, would be like, can I give you Tyreek Hill for Damian Harris? And it's like, okay, that also works.
Hey, if you were playing keepers, I would have kept Damian Harris in a heartbeat for that.
That's true. That's a pretty, especially if you got a higher draft pick as well. That's a smart keep.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Moving on.
How did you not win last year, Steve?
He got robbed. He got robbed.
I got robbed. Trust me.
I took this one down.
His last week, he got robbed because all of his starters basically were sitting out.
Yep.
Because you also had Cooper Kupp.
Oh my god.
I had Cooper Kupp. We don't need to get into
We don't need
this.
to.
That was really
I
embarrassing.
wonder why he
It's
had
fun.
Cooper Kupp, Kyle.
Thanks, Kyle.
Listen, I thought Robert Woods would be better. Listen.
The fact that you thought that.
Why? How was that a bad decision?
Okay.
Because not 1 year did Cooper Kupp look worse. Since they've been together, not 1 year did he look worse. And he'd come off an ACL.
Oh my god. Listen, Kyle, it's okay.
We'll get into this
it's
another
okay.
time.
It was a bad.
Yes.
It was a bad trade. We all make them. It's fine.
Tune in for our draft special when we do our draft and Kyle
Saturday.
league, because we're gonna roast Kyle.
Episode on Saturday.
We're gonna
To
roast
mention
Kyle.
that, we will be live on Saturday with almost our entire fantasy football group doing another special for you. We'll be doing Tuesday, Saturday, Tuesday. We won't miss a beat. It's going to be awesome. Y'all should tune in on Saturday. Moving on to I've got a string of running backs here, including Damian Harris. A guy, again, who performed really well last year that I'm surprised he's going this low. Cordero Patterson's average draft position is 91. He shot onto the fantasy scene last year, especially in PPR leagues, because of the way the Falcons' offense had to be run. And again, it hasn't changed that much. They've added Drake London and added Marcus Mariota. And with Mariota being kind of similar to Matt Ryan with the throwing styles, where he likes to keep it short, use those screens out of the backfield, swing it to his running back, I don't understand why Cordero Patterson's value has dropped. I'm pretty sure he was a top 15 running back in fantasy last year. It could have been higher than that. There's no reason for him to be going as low as Damian Harris and Tony Pollard, for example.
Well, the other thing, too,
especially
is,
in
I mean,
PPRs.
And when you have a very limited offense, you're going to give a lot of touches to your star players. And realistically, as long as he can get healthy, there's always an incredible chance for him and Kyle Pitts to, accumulate a lot of stats. Especially, you have a Falcons team where the defense is going to get blown out. So you're going to have an offense that's just going to get a lot of garbage yards near the end of a game as well. So you have two amazing players that people can honestly take advantage of, and then play them when they play a team like the Jaguars or the Giants, like other garbage teams that they can really compete against.
And as far as I know, Atlanta hasn't added any running backs. So I'm just kind of like, I'm sitting here at average draft position 91. Again, mid-8th round, somewhere in there, and Cordero Patterson sitting on the board. That's a great RB3 if you already have two running backs. He's a great flex option. And in a pinch, he's a really good RB2 option.
Yep.
All
right, who else you got?
A lot of people think that he might draft. I don't know if any drop in production. I don't know if you guys think that, but I definitely don't.
I think he will very slightly. I don't think it will be like dramatic. Like I definitely would call him a sleeper for his ADP value right now, but I do think he will drop just because of how bad the Atlanta offense will be.
Yeah.
I just don't have high hopes for that offense at all. Like certain people on it will, I think, do well where they're being drafted, like Kyle Pitts and Drake London. And I think Cordero Patterson will be a viable option for you. I just don't think you should necessarily reach for him. I think you have to be very careful where you draft him and how you use him.
No, it's absolutely like where he's being drafted is the value. I wouldn't say take him in the 5th round. But if he's dropping all the way to the 8th or the 9th round, I'm definitely going to try to take him. I think that's
even that. I think is too high.
I think for a top 20 PPR running back,
Yeah.
I don't think he'll be that this year, though.
I don't
That's what I'm
know.
saying.
I don't know, Kyle. I don't know.
I just don't. I had to tell you, I don't have high hopes for this Atlanta offense.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, he
Well.
shined in a struggling Atlanta offense last year. I'm fine
Yeah.
saying that he'll probably shine in a struggling Atlanta offense this year.
Mhm.
Moving on to another guy who's ADP 100, who I think is actually going to get more touches, and his efficiency will probably stay the same. The Dallas Cowboys running back not named Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Pollard has had his role increase in the first 2 years that he's been in Dallas, and it's been a steady increase. He's always gotten more touches. He continues to get more touches, and in camp, he's looked better than Zeke has. Yeah, the Dallas Cowboys paid Zeke a lot of money. They're still going to play him. But Zeke often misses time, and even when Zeke doesn't miss time, Tony Pollard's a really good RB3 going at average draft position 100. And when Zeke misses time, Tony Pollard becomes an RB1 because of the fact that the Dallas Cowboys run the football. It's part of their offense. It's what they do. At the very least, Tony Pollard's a really good RB3. If Zeke is hurt and Tony Pollard's the main back, he's a very, very good RB2 and a decent RB1. I would look for him at the 8th to 10th round level.
The only concern I have with him is just health, is just staying healthy. Because he definitely has been injured a lot. So that's where if he's available in the 8th round pick and there really isn't much in the 8th round and you can kind of see where everyone's drafting, I would say even take a risk and maybe wait for the later rounds to see who else you can pick up, especially everybody else might be full at running back as well, only because you just have to be careful because he is an injured player a lot. He's a very efficient runner, but it really depends because it depends on how that Cowboys offensive line does too.
That's fair. I think the Cowboys always have a really good offensive line. Nothing's changed there. I think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, what was
Again,
it? Their guard hasn't had
Zach,
a holding call.
He has like 6 holding calls over a 12-year career.
That's insane.
He's had 5 seasons with 0 of them. Yeah, Zach Martin's an absolute animal. Him and Quentin Nelson are 2 of the best offensive linemen in the league, and they don't get enough appreciation for what they do.
Yep.
My 8th pick here is Alan Lazard. Average draft position of 103. He's wide receiver 2 on a depleted Green Bay Packers roster. And I don't think Sammy Watkins really takes away from the targets that Alan Lazard is actually going to pick up this year. He's still got Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. He's a big deep ball threat. He's gotten better at running routes. I think Alan Lazard could take a big step up. Again, if you find Alan Lazard sitting there in the 8th round, you're probably going to get a guy in a PPR who can get you 10 to 20 points a game, and I think that's incredibly valuable as a backup receiver or a flex option.
At any given week, he could also go off as well, especially if his repertoire with Aaron Rodgers gets better throughout the season, especially when you get to desperation, because at the very end of it, you're going to find yourself a game where Aaron Rodgers might just feed the ball to him because that's who he has probably the best chemistry with. So definitely there'll be games that if you play him, at least the volume of targets he's going to get is definitely going to help you out a lot.
And I can see Kyle looking at me like I'm an idiot, so I would really love to hear his opinion here.
I don't necessarily agree that you're an idiot. I just don't think I'm very iffy on Alan Lazard, only because I don't know if he will be the one Green Bay that Aaron Rodgers chooses to be his new Devontae. And I'm not sure if it will be Christian Watson or not, or if it will be Alan Lazard. And that's where I'm like, so it's not, so where he's being drafted, yes, I think you absolutely take that chance, and I think he absolutely will be a sleeper for that, because we won't know until the season starts who Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball to. Yep. But like the only reason why I'm like, I don't know if I want to take that risk is because I'm not confident that he is the one Aaron Rodgers is choosing.
So I wouldn't be confident in Christian Watson this year. He's one of my favorite receivers in this draft. It was a very deep receiver class, but Christian Watson is by all means a project receiver. Yeah, he's got the DK Metcalf build where he's 6'3", 230, and can run a straight line. But I wouldn't necessarily say he was even as polished as DK was coming out, and DK wasn't polished when he was coming out. I don't think he's polished now. So when it comes to Christian Watson, I wouldn't expect him to take away targets from Alan Lazard, especially right away. Maybe later in the season it becomes a problem, but I don't see that happening year one.
Also, look at Devontae Adams. It took him, it was like 3 or 4 seasons until he became who he was, and Aaron Rodgers was still his quarterback throughout that whole time. So any rookie wide receiver is almost guaranteed that they're not going to have that much production, just because that's how Aaron Rodgers is. Like, it takes a lot of time to develop receivers with Rodgers, especially.
Also, let's be clear, no one's replacing Devontae Adams in that offense. They're going to need
No.
to distribute the ball around to make sure that offense is actually effective. There will not
Unless they
be
got Kenny Galladay.
There will not be a 15 target receiver in Green Bay this year. It just won't happen.
All right, Steve. All right, that's it. I cannot with this anymore. I cannot with you anymore.
Can't wait to see you this weekend. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. I bet it will.
Listen, boys, Kyle, you're actually going to like my next sleeper.
Mhm.
Because he's going to be Daniel Jones's favorite target this year, and his average draft position is 110, which is close to the 10th round. It's in the early 9th. I think
Every opposing CB.
Let's go.
Any defense Daniel Jones faces.
Ah.
No. Kadarius
Wow.
Toney is absolutely going to go
Yep.
nuts as long as he stays
Mhm.
healthy.
Yep.
Like, I think Kadarius Toney could be a top 20 PPR wide receiver this year, just based on the fact that he's going to be Daniel Jones' favorite target. He plays in the slot. He's very good after the catch. And at times last year, he looked very, very good. That's when he was healthy. You take the injury risk with Kadarius Toney because of that upside, and especially if you're getting him in the late 9th round, early, mid, late 9th, you should probably take that risk.
Yep.
I actually think Kadarius Toney is going to be absolutely amazing this year.
I think also you're going to have, Toney can definitely go deep. He could probably run definitely near the middle of the field. You're going to have Kenny Galladay that soon is going to be abandoned, hopefully, by Daniel Jones. You have Slayton, who's definitely, I think, can probably fit in a very good slot role. But you just have Toney being able to kind of be an everything guy. Even see him maybe even throwing in some jet sweeps if they want to get fancy with their offense. Because a jet sweep's better than a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 8. So I think Toney definitely has a lot of potential for this season. I'll give that to Kyle. One player to maybe be excited about.
One. Absolutely not. I can name about 2 others that I think.
Yeah, he's talking about Evan Neely, Kayvon Thibodeau, who almost had his ACL torn by Thaddeus Moss.
I'm saying fantasy value. Fantasy value.
All right,
I think will be better. I think there's a
That's
lot.
why you should draft
Tyrod
Tyrod Taylor too.
No, if you are smart, you do not draft Tyrod Taylor.
No.
If you have any sense
No,
of
'cause they'll
football,
puncture
you do
his
not
lung.
draft Tyrod Taylor.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, headed into the number 10, boys. This is a name that's probably on absolutely nobody's radar at this point in time. His name is James Cook. He's a running back in Buffalo. He was taken
There
by
you
the
go.
Bills in the. He's essentially going to be their 3rd down back. He's going to be their pass catching back. So if you're playing in a PPR league, he can be a very, very good bye week running back. So you got a back who's on a bye week. You're in a pinch. Take James Cook. Going to be a pass catching back in Buffalo. Going to be a guy that runs when it's 3rd down and 2.
Mhm.
You have in PPR leagues. Let me make sure this is very clear. We play a 12-man PPR, and that's what I'm basing this off of. James Cook can be a very, very good back for you, especially if you can pick him up in the later rounds of your draft.
One thing you look at it as well, you see a Bills team that Josh Allen is becoming a very smart quarterback. So now you start getting into, you look at some of the bigger games of the season, you have teams like Kansas City or like Cincinnati or even the Patriots that you're going to have a lot of focus on your big name receivers. So that is a recipe for a 3rd down catching running back to potentially go off. Because if you're just going down the field with Davis and Diggs, and you're matching a linebacker against him, that's a lot of matchups that are in his favor, especially for someone that can be pretty speedy right in the slot, or even be a nice little check down, or even like what's the word I'm thinking of? A sweep or anything like that. So definitely in these big games, if you have a bye week and like the Bills have to go up against, potentially like the Chiefs or the Patriots, definitely he's got a good chance to go off.
That's that's the thing is the weapons around him are going to help him because Stephon
Mhm.
Diggs, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, all
Mhm.
those guys attract attention.
OJ Howard.
And OJ Howard too now. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
James Cook is going to go sneakily under the radar for most of those games. Nobody's going to game plan for it. And he can very much end up in that James White role that the Patriots had for so many years that I think Ty Montgomery is going to fill now.
Mhm.
So looking for James Cook in your later rounds. I'm going to move on to my honorable mentions. We don't have to talk about this as
Before
much.
you do that,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mhm.
Kyle.
I'm actually really pissed that you just said James Cook because he was someone I was going to try and draft in our league on Saturday.
We're all looking at
You
him.
didn't have to
I
say
thought-
that. You didn't
Yeah.
have to
I-
say
no.
that.
You couldn't.
I had to say that because it's important for our listeners to know how valuable the James Cook is. I want them
So
to
that can be
know.
your excuse. It's like
Don't
I
forget,
lost the league
His,
because of James
his
Cook.
mentor,
Kyle, you lost
his
the
mentor
league because
is
you
his
won
older
3
brother
games.
Dalvin. He is the younger
I
brother of
can't.
Dalvin Cook, so I see
Yes.
him being a future starter in this league at some point.
Let's just hope
But-
injuries don't run in the family.
Yikes.
Oh yeah.
But
Yikes.
but Jake, I do think he will be a superstar in a couple years. So I do think that is
So-
a very
Yeah.
valuable pick.
James Cook also has the 8th easiest running back schedule as it stands now with the
Yep.
Bills. So he should have quite a few times to be able to go off for that. If Josh Allen quickly finds him reliable with hands, he's going to be, and if he can carve out, I think he's got to prove really quickly to Josh Allen. And from everything I've heard from training games, that he's looking really good.
Mhm.
If he can prove he's got solid hands and he can run, they're probably going to have him out of the bathroom running routes and stuff like that. If he can do all of that like his brother does, then he'll quickly establish himself as that third down back, and then he can start to work himself into that maybe even second or first on occasion. Maybe even take out that role from who are the other
Devin
two they've got?
Singletary.
Yeah, Devin Singletary and
It's
who's the other
just
guy?
Devin Sing. Zach Moss is RB3 right now.
Yeah.
Right. So
Or did he leave? I forget.
I think he's
I know,
still
right?
there.
I know
No,
right
he's
now
still
it's
there.
It's Singletary, Cook, and then the third back.
Right. But even
Yeah.
last year we saw where like, okay, it was gonna be Singletary. Oh no, then they switched halfway through. Like they couldn't figure it out last year because neither one was doing all that great.
Yeah.
So I think if he establishes himself as that receiving back that like he's got that role on lock early, then the rest of your season could look really well because I wouldn't see it taking long for him to carve out #1 status.
That's a fact.
Also hope that the Bills take advantage of this easy run schedule so that Josh Allen can definitely tone it back on how much he puts his body on the line. So at least there's less of a scare when playoff comes where they're going to need Josh Allen to go crazy.
Yeah, but I'm gonna want him again, so I kind of want him to do that.
Austin, you can tell him and let him know.
I'm moving on
will.
to the honorable mentions section.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're not going to discuss these as much. They're just guys that I personally am like, this is too low. Jacoby Myers is coming in under all of those receivers at ADP 136.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mac Jones' security blanket is good for 5 to 8 catches a game. I don't see why you wouldn't want the constant 12 to 18 points in a PPR for Jacoby Myers. If he's there sitting in the 11th round, absolutely take him. I also think Jalen Hurts with an improved passing offense and his running ability at ADP 65 is kind of low. Just
He's a good
two
backup
honorable,
for sure.
just two honorable mentions. Honestly, in fantasy, he's a decent QB1. He was QB9 last year,
Yep.
so it's not bad. I think he can probably sit right around that now, and with an improved passing game, has the upside to go better than that.
Yep.
And now you got guys to stay away from. Nick's going to absolutely hate my first player on the board here.
Yeah.
Average draft position 13, Alvin Kamara with a 6-game suspension looming. Stay far away from Alvin Kamara. Also, his production dropped last year without Drew Brees, and I think that continues.
And no Peyton.
And no Sean Payton.
Yes, you do not have that kind of offensive genius that's Sean Payton there, for sure.
I will say that a lot of these are running backs that are just being drafted way too high.
Yep.
The second one,
Elliott.
I forget if we actually brought up this.
Zeke isn't on this list.
Wow.
Really?
He's not being drafted that high.
Okay.
Leonard Fournette, ADP 21. You're talking late second round for Leonard Fournette.
And that's risky.
They took
He
that
had a-
rookie too.
He had a really good year last year. They did draft a rookie. They lost Rojo. but
Rojo didn't contribute much last year.
he's
So
rarely ever stayed healthy for a full season, which is also the same thing with Alvin Kamara. He's rarely stayed healthy for a full season. Leonard Fournette is more high risk, high reward. I just wouldn't draft him in the middle of your second round in a 12-man league. I just wouldn't do it.
I would say the upside that he does have without Gronkowski on that team, he's definitely going to be a check down or final option for Brady because that's someone that Brady really likes. But you also have Giovanni Bernard and the rookie, and Vaughn. Vaughn actually has been, Vaughn actually showed some great flashes in the playoffs, especially against the Eagles too.
The Bucs just also have way too many weapons. Like it's just absolutely insane. I just don't see his production being as high.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes for a younger running back, a much younger running back than the last two. Javonte Williams' average draft position is at 26, meaning high third round in your 12-man PPRs, and he's still got split carries in Denver with Melvin Gordon.
So stupid.
Plus, he's got Russell Wilson now, who's never really utilized his backs in the passing game.
He only has when his head coach has forced the running game.
And so I'm not that high on Javonte Williams. I think he's a good fantasy option. I don't think he's early third round good fantasy option.
I think the problem is they're basing it off of his talent, which is enormous, but he's not in the best situation.
No, he's absolutely not in the best situation.
No, he's not.
Another I told you a lot of these are running backs. The first 5 are running backs. The next one at average draft position of 28. Again, high to mid third round. I know this player had a really good year last year. James Conner going higher than Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley in PPR leagues. Absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious.
Nick's about to get some trash on
Nick's
here.
not what I said about Alvin Kamara. He's about to
go
nuts.
Go on, Nick. Let's see your face.
Go ahead.
I have a question.
What?
Whose trash take is saying Alvin Kamara is drafted too early? Excuse me. I tuned into the podcast on my way home and hear this god-awful take that Alvin Kamara is drafted too early. How dare you?
All right, guys. Alvin
That's
Kamara
fine.
is
He's
overrated
taking
in the
him.
chat.
You can have him.
Yeah, you can have him with his 6-game suspension looming.
His 6-game suspension, I shouldn't even be saying this, has been confirmed to be pushed back to at least next year, if it even happens. So get
we'll see
on
what
my
happens.
level.
Yeah, we'll see.
He is playing week 1. He is playing all season.
That's great. He's injured for 4 games a year.
Hey, and guess who had 6 touchdowns who tied the NFL record not even 2 years ago? So get on his level. Drew Brees didn't run those touchdowns in, Jake.
Drew Brees allowed him to have space.
Also, didn't have a smart of a
Go
coach
back to driving.
too. He doesn't have a smart of a coach now.
Javonte Williams, by the way, is the bell cow for that team. Melvin Gordon will become the receiving back. He's too old. That's all I gotta
Go
say.
back to driving. Nobody needs your trash takes around here.
Oh, it's okay, Jake. I can't wait for you to be last in the league again. Sorry.
No.
I wasn't last.
That's okay. I can't wait for Nick to lose to me again.
I can't wait for Nick to be last in the league. First and foremost, I was not last in the league.
No, that was
second to last.
I
think that was Riley.
I was middle
that was
of
Riley or
playoff
her
pack
brother.
and decided to meme because I only like to win championships or lose. I traded away my entire team for Kyler Murray for funds. And
that's right.
And Kyle traded away his whole team thinking he would win.
Yeah.
Now, I got to James Conner at average draft position 28. Way too high, especially if he's going ahead of Nick Chubb and Saquon Barkley. There's absolutely zero shot he should be having that. Another guy that I don't see the value is Breece Hall at ADP 53. He's splitting carries with at least one other back in Michael Carter, and he's a rookie. I don't like drafting rookies that high, especially when they're not guaranteed to play.
What team is he on?
He's on the Jets.
Oh yeah, the Jets. Okay, but that offensive
and their offensive line is awful.
I was gonna say my problem is each year there's always gonna be one rookie running back that is could win you a championship if you pick him right. Like I did that with Zeke when he was a rookie. Zeke went off. I did that. Who else did I do with? I can't remember. So obviously people did it with Alvin Kamara when he came in. Thing is, you have to like find that diamond, figure out who's going to be that, who's got the best situation. The reason Zeke went off his first year is he had some talent, but he had freaking Zach Martin and the other three beasts of an offensive lineman.
I literally think they had 4 Hall of Fame offensive linemen.
They did. They literally did that year. It was just dirty. Like there was just he had like 15 feet of running room every carry. So I agree with you. I don't see Breece Hall. I think he has the talent. I would say if any running back's going to be better, even though the Seahawks suck, I think Kenneth Walker's better than Breece Hall. Even though Chris Carson's still there, isn't he?
No, he retired because of his neck.
Oh, that's right. So then I would say Kenneth Walker. I actually wanted to bring this up, so we can quickly touch on the rookie running backs in a minute. But finish out your.
Yeah, just running through them quickly. I mean, Jerry Jeudy's at ADP 56. I think that's too high considering Cortland Sutton has outperformed them their entire careers. Jeudy is ahead of Brandon Cooks right now, even though Cooks always gives 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns every year. Jeudy is an injury risk. And he was wide receiver 85 last season, so going ADP 56 just makes no sense.
He did also have.
I don't care who he had. He was wide receiver 85.
I mean,
That's
it's still
concerning.
matters when you have Drew Lock.
It doesn't.
It does. Drew Lock's literally so bad.
But it's not wide receiver 85 bad. Not sorry about that.
I think he's going to be better. I think he's top 40 this year. I don't know if he should be as drafted as high as you're saying, though.
Yeah, I mean, ADP 56 is just way too high. That's like Jerry Jeudy could be a very, very good wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 option on a fantasy team, but anything higher than that, I'm not sold on.
Did you just eat shit on the table? Sorry, Maria literally just ran face first into the table.
It's okay. And let's talk about Antonio Gibson.
Yes.
ADP 67. And really all I have to say is he's in jeopardy of losing his starting spot in Washington. Don't draft this man. Don't draft this man if you want to win. Don't draft him.
He's already Brian Robinson.
You also have to remember. Sorry,
go ahead, Steve. No, go ahead, Steve.
Well, you have to remember too that it was the 2020 season. A lot of his production came near the end of the season, especially like his big breakout game was against really a Cowboys team that just lost all focus. It was a complete shit show. So Gibson still has shown, it's definitely like he's shown flashes, so that's enough to put him higher because running backs is so heavily valued in fantasy especially. But yeah, just be careful because you have a gunslinger now as your quarterback. So it's definitely going to be tougher, and they don't have a great offensive line either. So he might, how about nobody drafts him, and if he catches a couple balls week 1, pick him up on the and wave. Yeah, what do you want? I'm just doing the podcast. Yes, she's literally. Guys, say hi to Giselle.
Hi, Giselle.
Yeah,
she's adorable.
She is adorable. She's just her breath. Her breath smells really bad, so she's just breathing in my direction.
It's all right. We're gonna move on to number 8, and I actually think I'm gonna take a lot of heat for this. ADP 99. So getting drafted ahead of some of the guys I mentioned earlier, including Jacoby Myers and a couple other running backs, including Damian Harris and Tony Pollard, is wide receiver Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons, who is already the second option behind Kyle Pitts, has already had an injury, and is a very tall, athletic jump ball receiver. And I will say this about Drake London. He's one of my favorite receivers coming out of this class because of that fact. He has a history of injuries at USC, which is why he which is why he was thought to be dropping in the draft, was picked number 8 overall by the Falcons. And he has Marcus Mariota as his quarterback. This isn't Marcus Mariota slander. It's his type of play, Andrew. Don't worry. That Marcus Mariota just doesn't like throwing jump balls. He doesn't like putting the ball in danger in the 50-50 situations. Even though Drake London is 6'4", it's just not what Marcus Mariota does. If Desmond Ritter plays later in the year and Drake London is healthy, he'll probably start looking better then because Desmond Ritter will take those shots. But I don't see Drake London's production matching a even bench fantasy wide receiver in a PPR.
I don't think that's a bad take because he is injury prone. He literally got drafted with an injury, came off that injury, and got injured. So like,
second option, injured on a very limited passing game. On a team that's on an atrocious team. Yeah, the fact that he's taken high, that he's valued potentially higher than Jacoby Myers, even like Kendrick Bourne. I mean,
we're talking 3 rounds higher than Jacoby Myers.
That is, unfortunately, sometimes fantasy football doesn't know what they're talking about, and maybe they miss a couple games, unfortunately, but it's okay.
It's because people hate the Patriots. That's why.
Yeah, that's a fact. Also, moving into another running back, he had a really good end of the season last year, but is going way too high. He's going around the same time guys like Damian Harris and Tony Pollard are going, and I don't see his season panning out the same way. Rashad Penny's going ADP 107, so only about half a round behind Damian Harris and Tony Pollard.
No.
He had a really good last 5 weeks of last season. Yes, he's shown some promise, but he's also splitting carries with rookie Kenneth Walker. Maybe not to start the year, but by the end of the year, I think Kenneth Walker's talent really shines. And he's not a pass-catching running back, and in PPRs, that can be a little bit of a limiting factor. He was
Seahawks?
Yeah, he's RB 38 currently. I don't see him being
3.
I don't see him being that high.
By week 3, he'll be on the IR again. So
he also has an injury problem.
Again, now you have potentially a second or third string running back on a terrible team and an immensely the worst team and the toughest division going up against 3 teams that now have pretty solid run defenses.
He's got Aaron Donald twice.
Aaron Donald's just going to turn him into a dumpling. I don't know. He's just going to wrap him up in some dough and just boil him. What's up?
Don't the Rams play
them early? Yeah.
So, like, he's going to get hurt against Aaron Donald in that defense early. And
Bobby Wagner, too.
Right, for like 7 weeks or something like that. And then Kenneth Walker will be the one taking over. I also like Kenneth Walker better.
This isn't a slight at Rashad Penny. I actually really like Rashad Penny as a running back. I just think his situation is awful behind the Seattle line. And they drafted Kenneth Walker, so I just don't see the value being there.
Yep.
And let's get to my last one. This quarterback is being drafted ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Justin Fields, and Jameis Winston, to name a few. He's a first-year starter, and his name is Trey Lance.
I know.
He's average draft position 111. Again, getting picked ahead of guys like Trevor Lawrence, who's a good fantasy quarterback. He played well. The Jaguars didn't play well last year. Kirk Cousins, who is actually a really good fantasy quarterback.
He was top 10 in almost every category last season.
People just don't understand that. Derek Carr is going to be a very good fantasy quarterback this year with my projections. Justin Fields runs around a lot and is a decent fantasy quarterback. I am also not sold on Trey Lance. I said it when he came out of the draft. I've kept saying it, and the reports out of camp have only confirmed that he's really not that great.
So here's the thing with Trey Lance. With him, the issue is accuracy. So I would say I would believe this hype if the reports came out of camp was, wow, he's starting to work on accuracy. But literally his coach is saying, oh, some days he's great, some days he sucks. And I know there's a lot of potential on this team, but if you're struggling with accuracy on a team that's more run first anyways, you're really I really struggle with taking him over, especially, come on, over Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr, especially. Like, those are 2 potential, any given week, could actually creep into the top 5 QB talk, realistically. Like, they have before.
In fantasy football, not
in fantasy. Well, and actually, too, it depends on the week, but, like, they have the potential. It really depends. But, like, if Kirk Cousins and actually Derek Carr, with much better offensive coaches with incredible weapons. Yeah, I just...
So
And don't get me wrong, I get the fantasy upside with Trey Lance being able to run, but even when he was coming out of the draft, the biggest thing was, oh, this guy's arm is absolutely insane. Then we get reports out of the camp that it's a decent to pretty good NFL arm. Like it's good. It's better than average, but it's not as insane as everybody thought it was. This is why you don't draft a guy who played 12 games at North Dakota State, third overall. This is why you don't do that.
Yeah, definitely not third overall. I would say for him, it also depends, again, which kind of league you're in. For us, it makes absolutely no sense because if he's inaccurate, our league has plus points for completions and negative points for incompletions. A negative quarterback or an inaccurate quarterback will screw you every week.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they could lose you 15 points. We've all had it happen, or even more. Then if you have an inaccurate quarterback who's missing 15 times more than what they're completing, guess what they're also probably doing? Throwing interceptions, which is more negative points. So we've all been screwed by it. In a standard league or even a standard PPR league, with his running ability and not having any problem with inaccuracy unless it's an interception, you're probably okay with it. But how long is he going to hold his starting position? Will he hold it that long? Who knows? It all depends. If he's not doing well and the team's sucking, they're going to hand it right back to Jimmy G. So,
if you're looking at the schedule, sorry.
No, just let me put it this way. Everybody thinking that Trey Lance is going to have this Mahomes-esque second year in the league, and all the tape and looked at Trey Lance. I think they had 1,300 yards of offense combined. Yeah, it was absolutely insane.
It was insane. Both of them balled out, and of course Mayfield just won because they had the better team. But Mahomes almost took down Oklahoma with a much worse team. You knew he was going to be pretty decent.
For those that don't know, Texas Tech is famous for having one of the worst defenses in college football every year. I think they've recently changed that, but when Pat Mahomes was there, they were consistently one of the worst defenses in college football.
Yep.
Yeah, at the same time, too, if you were to look back at the reports from camp of Patrick Mahomes, if you were to look back at the reports of Patrick Mahomes at camp, he was immensely better. He had much more positive feedback and results, and people were raving about him during training camp or during practices compared to Trey Lance. Trey Lance is pretty straightforward. It's what we're concerned about. The accuracy is not there. For Patrick Mahomes, it's wow, he's got a strong arm. He's starting a gunsling. He also had a much better mentor with Alex Smith, because even though Jimmy Garoppolo is a great not great, but he's definitely a very serviceable quarterback. He definitely was not the mentor that Alex Smith was.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
And that ends my top 10 sleepers, 12 sleepers, and 10 guys to stay away from. We're going to go into a segment before we end about your top what-ifs in NFL history. For us, it's probably going to be things in the last 20 years. We're all around the same age of 24, 25. So I'm going to let Andrew go first. Andrew, give me your biggest what-if in NFL history. Also, guys, tell me if you thought that list was great. Tell me if you thought it sucked. Go ahead in the comments. You will be able to find it. Just let me know.
I liked it.
I did too. My biggest what-if is the Rams and Saints NFC Conference Championship game, where that pass interference call should have happened, and it was a blatant pass interference call that was never called. What if the Saints actually had achieved that accomplishment of having that called? Would that have been the biggest game changer? Would the Saints have scored? Would the Saints have been in the Super Bowl?
And now you have
was the Pats in that Super Bowl? I don't remember.
Yeah, we beat the Rams 13-3.
Then Breeze would have choked.
Here's the thing, though: the Saints had a much more experienced and smarter quarterback than Goff. Also had even though I love Sean Payton, or I love
Sean McVay.
Sean Payton has been to a Super Bowl before and definitely can handle these high pressure situations. So it would have been a much closer game for sure.
Austin, give me your biggest what if in NFL history.
My biggest what if, because I know some of the other ones are going to come up, so I'm going to go with one that I don't think anybody else is taking. What if Big Bad Bo Jackson never got hurt?
Oh.
That is actually a really good one. I wasn't even thinking that far back. I've got a couple, but
Because that man, I wish he had picked one sport, and I kind of wish it had been baseball. I mean, I love football. We would have seen, I think, insanity from that man. I don't know. There was a recent clip going around of him throwing from left field all the way to first base, and my God, that was a cannon. Like, I mean, it literally
man
didn't
should have
arc all.
played
It was like,
quarterback.
honestly,
Man
he
should
could
have played quarterback. But
I'll have to show you guys out. I don't know if I can find it again, but literally, he threw it from like midway out there, so it's not like super far. He was decently deep, but it literally was just a straight laser. There was no arc on it, all the way from out in left field to first base. It was just all the way across, and the camera's like, woo! So, yeah, I wish I would have been able to see what had happened to him because we would have catch the end of it. When was he playing? 90s, right? I think it was 90s.
80s, 90s era, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 90s. I don't think it was as early as 80s. I think it was 90s. But either way, he probably would have been playing, at least in the MLB, close to around the time we would have been born, maybe able to catch some of him. So I think that would have been cool. But even if he had done both or just eventually picked football, either way, if he never got hurt, it would have been insane to see that man play.
Absolutely. Justin, give me your biggest what if in NFL history.
All right, so I'm definitely a Pats focused person, similar to like the big one. What if Brady was never into football, but more of something? What if Drew Bledsoe never got injured?
You took my man.
That's so good.
Because that would have still had Brady in football, but he wouldn't have been the starter that turned into the GOAT.
That's a fact. Kyle, what is your biggest what if in NFL history?
So, I do a little bit of a backstory on this. So, a couple years ago, a photo surfaced on the World Wide Web on Twitter of several Giants players. And since that picture, the
Say it
Giants
again, Kyle.
the Giants.
The one on the banana boat, brother. No, sorry, that's not banana boat. The yacht picture.
Yeah, the yacht picture. Since that yacht.
Well, they went from yacht boys to banana boats.
The Giants have started 0-3 every single year since that picture was taken. So my biggest what if, since also the year prior to that was the last time the Giants had made the playoffs. So that being said,
I think they
my
took that
biggest
picture.
what if.
They took that in the playoff, like
They
before
took
the playoff
that
game.
before the playoff game.
Yep.
I'm aware, but still, what if Odell never took that picture? Odell probably may have still been a Giant for the past couple of years.
Maybe he didn't break his ankle.
Yeah. Would have at least played Eli's last couple seasons on the Giants. So I don't think if that picture was taken, I don't think the criticism would have gotten to Odell's head. I don't think he would have left the Giants as soon as he did, which means Eli and the Giants would have had better records, which means they don't draft Daniel Jones. So I don't know where the Giants necessarily would be, but I do think that honestly godforsaken, stupid picture has actually led to some of the issues the Giants have today. As stupid as
boat
That's a
photo.
good place to blame it. It's good thing to blame it on.
The curse of the boat photo.
I am blaming the curse, not the incompetent coaching or management. No, I'm blaming the damn photo. That's my biggest what if.
Okay, Steve, give me your biggest what if in NFL history.
There are there's like very basic ones like in the Super Bowl or whatnot. But honestly, I'm going to say, what if after the 2019 season, the Patriots made an actual offer and traded for Stephon Diggs?
Okay.
So what if we got ourselves a true number one wide receiver, and then I think it was O.J. Howard was a free agent as well. I'll have to look back and see because there were some cheap offensive pieces for free agents. But what if we did that? What if Bill Belichick actually put in an effort to get Tom Brady some weapons? And if he would have stayed, how that would have changed?
With that 2019 defense,
If that 29, because a lot of the 2019 defense we could have kept. If Brady stayed, a lot of the players would have stayed as well, for sure. Because that's what like Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins, especially, and Duron Harmon, and a lot of other players definitely would have had the motivation to stay. So I'm just thinking, what if Belichick actually? What's up?
Jamie Collins was traded before that Super Bowl, though, wasn't he?
Nope.
Yeah, he was traded to the Lions.
No, we got him back before. For the 2019 season, we got him back, right? Or was it 2020?
No. So it was we got him back for the 2021 season. The thing is that he was a free agent that season. He went to the Lions. He was signed by the Lions. So we had a lot of defensive players that were free agents, but we had a chance to either get Hopkins or Stephon Diggs. And considering the trade that, especially, actually, I don't even think about the Texans. What the Texans gave up to get Hopkins would have been a steal.
Wasn't it like David Johnson and a second-round pick?
Yep.
Oh my god.
So, just thinking, what if Belichick put an effort to get offensive pieces next year, or over that offseason?
Okay. I'm going to take the liberty and do 3. I'm going to dip into my football history knowledge here. I'm going to go most recent to oldest. First of all, what if RG3 never gets hurt? Because that dude was looking like he was going to take over the league for an entire season there. I think what were the Redskins at the time? They probably still have RG3 as their quarterback right now if he doesn't get hurt. I mean, he rushed back in, ruined his knee, and it was game over for him. I mean, we love RG3 on this podcast, so no RG3 slander. He was an absolute goat. I remember watching him at Baylor. There was
he also liked one of our tweets.
Yeah, he liked one of our tweets once. It was awesome.
We like his Twitter.
There was a stretch of 7 games at Baylor where he didn't throw an incomplete pass.
Yep.
Y'all remember that? Because I do vividly.
That man was insane.
Mm-hmm.
My other my second most recent. So, what if Brett Favre doesn't get traded from the Falcons? What if he never ends up in Green Bay? Because most people don't remember that Brett Favre was drafted by the Falcons in the 2nd round. Everybody just thinks he was in Green Bay his entire career. That is not true. Brett Favre sat on the bench in Atlanta for a year and then got traded to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers probably never win a Super Bowl. The Falcons probably never draft Mike Vick because Brett Favre was in the prime of his career in 2002. I think that's when Mike Vick was drafted.
Yep.
And I think the Falcons probably won a Super Bowl during that time because Brett Favre was a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I can't assume that he wouldn't win one in Atlanta.
And think about Aaron Rodgers' career, how much that is affected as well. Not being able to sit and be mentored by Brett Favre for a year as well.
He's probably never even drafted by the Packers at that point. I mean, he slid all the way down to 25. I don't know if the Packers are even there because they wouldn't have had Brett Favre. They would have taken one of the other quarterbacks in the draft, probably in 04. But Okay, I'm dipping real back.
I want to see where you go with this one.
Yeah, me too.
Super Bowl 3. What if Joe Namath doesn't win the Super Bowl?
Whoa.
You're talking about Joe Namath never makes the Hall of Fame. The Jets don't get their first Super Bowl. All the stuff that would affect if Joe Namath doesn't win that Super Bowl is absolutely asinine.
And imagine that, a loss to destroy the reputation of Joe Namath, who this man is so legendary. Steve Harvey looked this man and on live TV said, "You made me want to become a pimp." He was in the NFL Top 100 for the NFL 100 season. He was voted the greatest football character of all time.
Let me be very, very clear about my thoughts about Joe Namath. He does not belong in the Hall of Fame.
Nope.
He is a below 500 quarterback in his career, and he is a higher he has more interceptions than he does touchdowns. He's solely in the Hall of Fame for the fact that he called the Super Bowl win in Super Bowl 3. If the Jets don't win that game, I actually think Joe Namath is irrelevant. But here we are today. And boys, with that, are we good to conclude?
I think the only other one I would say is what would happen if actually two. I don't remember. Was OJ still playing when he had all that stuff go down?
Yes, I believe so.
I think
he wasn't.
Was that way after? Okay,
you
never mind.
can.
Okay, it was after.
Another one
Okay,
similar
so-
to like oh,
No, I'll just say the other one, Justin. Then you can go.
I was gonna say another
Uh,
one similar to the OJ. What if Aaron Hernandez was innocent?
Ooh.
Because he was a good Patriot player.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah.
And the other
Well,
one,
if only he got the help when he needed it instead of being stuck in that community. But that's a whole nother thing.
Austin, hit me with it.
would be what if, I guess it's kind of a two-part to the same one, but what if, one, Calvin Johnson ever retires at that age? And two, if he retires, came back when the Patriots were rumored to be getting him out of retirement.
That's also
Oh my!
Because that was what, 2017, I think it was, when they
Yeah,
were
I
rumored
think
he was going to come back out
I think
for
we were
him.
gonna trade Gronk for Calvin Johnson. I think that was the trade.
I don't remember if it was or
Yeah,
not.
and he
but-
said it was, and Gronk said he retired.
Yeah, Gronk said he would retire to veto the trade.
Yes.
But
Yep.
Either
do
way,
have
whatever it
one
was,
more
it would have been insane.
go ahead, Kyle. Go for it.
What if the Giants and Chargers never swap quarterbacks?
I was wondering-
I thought about doing
I
that.
thought that one too.
I
What if
honestly
the Giants
think-
never trade for Eli Manning.
I don't think the Giants have a Super Bowl if they don't trade for Eli.
I
But we
agree.
got the,
I
but that,
agree.
that one goes with the Drew Brees and the Philip
Yeah,
Rivers
how's that
stuff.
going to affect Drew Brees'
Yeah,
career
how does that
as
affect
well?
Drew Brees too?
Wow.
But all right, boys, this is going to conclude episode 26 of High School Backups podcast. We've officially been doing this for half a year for y'all. We really love it. We
Jeez.
enjoy it. And just another reminder to go follow the socials, High School Backups on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate y'all. This will be up on Spotify very, very soon. Have a good night, y'all.